Okay, welcome back. Here we're talking about free bet offers from the bookmakers and how we can take advantage of those to make a significant profit, build up a betting bank, and with that betting bank we can go off to the other videos and find out how to turn that into even more profit. But here we're focusing on how to take advantage of these free bet offers. And you remember from the first video we outlined just how much money is available to be taken. So let's run through a real life example that we can do right now. So I've taken one of the bookmakers, in this case William Hill, and I've managed to find a selection, Manchester City, that has very similar odds on the William Hill site as it does on the Betfair site. Now that's really important, and if you want to understand more about why these are usually more different, that's to do with the betting percentages, and the bookmaker will have a higher percentage profit than someone on Betfair would. There's a full detailed explanation of that in one of our other videos on the site to do with generating an all green Betfair book, so feel free to check back on that if you want to understand the pricing. But in its most simplistic form, we're looking for odds that are similar on the bookmaker site that we're going to get the free bet from, and then on the Betfair site that we're going to use to lay off these bets. So William Hill, in this case, are offering a £25 free bet for new users. So what do we need to do? Well, first of all, I'd recommend you go to the site and you read the specific terms and conditions. You need to find out what's excluded, what's included. Quite often, for example, they'll exclude certain betting markets like over under 2.5 goals, or there'll be a lower limit on the odds you're allowed to use for this. So they won't allow a bet at 1.1, for example. But make sure you're comfortable with it, read the terms and conditions, and there won't be a problem, I guarantee it, once you understand those conditions, finding a bet that we can do for this. Now I've managed to find a selection in Manchester City that's very similar in odds. In the ideal scenario, of course, these odds will be exactly the same, or even the odds on the bookmaker side will be higher. That's the ideal scenario. But I've tried to pick an example that's very realistic, that you could find within 5 minutes of looking on any website for a bookmaker, rather than focus on the holy grail, if you like, which is where the odds are exactly the same. Okay, so just before I flick back to Excel, I'll just show you the real life example here that I've found. So we found Manchester City at odds of 4.8 on Betfair, and we've found Manchester City, obviously the same game, be careful to check that, at odds of 4.75 on William Hill. Now you can use an odds comparison site, or you can just look through the latest matches. We want a big profile match, so we want something like the Premier League or La Liga, where there's going to be a lot of liquidity on Betfair. And then you're looking for odds that are as close as possible in order to give us the maximum amount of profit. So you can see if we'd wanted to use the draw, for example, that's 3.6 and 3.75, so the gap's a little bit wider. And Man United here is 1.75 on William Hill and 1.87 on Betfair. So we've disregarded those and gone for the odds where there's the closest match between the two sites. Okay, so let's understand the maths of what we're about to do so that you're comfortable with it, and then after that, and only after that, once you're fully comfortable with it, I would recommend placing the bets themselves. So let's run through what's going to happen here. So first thing to do will be to place a bet on the William Hill site, bookmaker site, for £25, which is the free bet amount we're trying to get, at the available odds on Manchester City. So what we're calculating here in this cell is what will happen if Manchester City win. Well, on our bookmaker account we will receive £118.75 back. Now then, what we're also going to do is lay Manchester City again on the Betfair site this time at slightly different odds. So here we're multiplying these two cells, and again we're looking at what will happen if Manchester City win, and there we will lose 95, but obviously that's at the same time as winning 118.75, which overall is plus 23.75. But remember, we had to stake 25 in the first place, and William Hill just received that back. So I just wanted to explain what that looks like on your bank statement, so that we're completely comfortable with the money coming in and going out. So here we've gone to the bookmaker site, we've deposited £25 and we've placed a bet. Here Manchester City have won the game, and we've received back in our William Hill account 118.75. And then remember, we laid the bet on Betfair and we've made a loss of £95. So those are the three transactions that you would see either in your account or on your statement. And overall, the sum of those is a £1.25 loss. So a tiny loss that we're accepting in order to generate the larger free bet. And remember, if these two odds were the same, or Holy Grail, this is bigger, then we don't make a loss at all. We make a zero total, or even a small profit. But again, I'm focused on a realistic example. So remember, this is not gambling. We're not hoping Manchester City win this game. That's not what we're doing here at all. So let's look at what happens if they don't win the game. So if Man City don't win the game, then we have a minus £25 figure in our bookmaker account. Remember, we place the bet, and just like any other bet, if it loses, minus 25. But because we laid the exact same selection on Betfair, we're actually going to make a profit in our betting account here for £23.75. And again, overall, the sum of those two figures is a minus 125 loss. Something that we're more than willing to accept for the larger good, the free bet. So once those two bets are struck, we know that no matter what happens in the game, we're going to lose £1.25. But we also know that no matter what happens in the game, we're going to get a £25 free bet. So we've accepted the small loss to get the larger free bet. Now then, we have to be clever about what we do with that free bet, because most often, if not all the time, this is non-withdrawable, so we have to turn it over again. In order to withdraw it, what we have to do is bet it, lay it, and withdraw the profit. Okay, so I've just moved on to the next section of the spreadsheet. By the way, the spreadsheet's readily available if anyone would like a copy of them. Just visit the website ExpertBettingVideos.com, send us an email, contact us, and we will happily send you out the spreadsheet to help you with your own calculations. So we've just moved through the sheet so far. Here's the free bets you can get. Here's how to place the initial bet. And here's how to take advantage of the free bet. So we have this free bet sat in our account now for £25. What do we do then? Well, the challenge is to find another example of a game where the odds match quite closely. Now in some cases you can use the exact same game, so we can go back and bet on Manchester City again, save us half the work. But in some cases, and I think William Hill are one of these, the free bet is only given once the previous game is finished and the bet is settled. So we have to find another example, which is easily enough. Within 5 minutes you should be finding these, no problem, especially if you're using an odds comparison site. Okay, so what do we do? Well, we take the £25 free bet on William Hill and we bet on the new selection, which in this case is a draw between Bolton Wanderers and Everton. So what happens there? Well, if the bet wins, if it is a draw, then we get the £25 free bet multiplied by the odds. Now, because it's non-withdrawable, and quite often with free bets, you don't receive the stake back. So we've had to take that off there. So that's what we're doing. We're saying amount times the price minus the stake, because you don't get your stake back. And that gives us a profit of £57.50 if the match is a draw. But again, here the key is we're not gambling. So we've laid off the same bet. We've gone to Betfair. We found the same selection, very similar odds, look 3.35, and we've laid off. Now here the calculation gets slightly more complicated. So what we've done is we've only laid off 70% of the free bet amount. That allows us to cope with commission, that allows us to cope with the change in price, and that allows us to keep a consistent profit whether the bet wins or the bet loses. So we're laying off 70% of £25. So just to show you the calculation here, we are taking the price, multiplying it by 70% of the free bet amount, which, let's just work out that, it's £25 times 70% is £17.50. So we're laying off £17.50 on the Betfair site. So price times £17.50 plus, in this case, our stake returned, would leave us with a negative figure on Betfair of minus £41.13. So we can see here in this cell, if the match ends in a draw, then we get 57.50 as a plus, and we get 41.13 as a minus, which means overall was £16.38 in profit. And obviously we don't sit there and hope for them to win. We don't care if it wins or loses, because if the selection doesn't win, so if Bolton win or it's an Everton win, the bookmaker account reads zero, because our only investment was the free bet, which didn't cost us a penny. And the amount in our Betfair account if it loses, because remember we laid this off, is £16.63. And you can see the calculation there is 25 times 7, which is 70%, that's what we laid off, multiplied by 95%, and the reason for that is Betfair commission. So if the bet loses, we make £16.63. If the bet wins, we make £16.38. So regardless of what happens, we're in profit, which is great, and that's exactly what we need to do. So that's some of the maths. If you need to skip back over this video, make sure you understand it, understand exactly what bets we need to place. And of course, when you get to this stage, you're going to withdraw everything from all your accounts and make sure, well, you don't need to make sure, but you will then have the profit sat in your bank account, which is where you want it. Okay, so that's the example, that's the maths. Now let's go through an example of actually placing these bets so you know exactly what you're placing and where. Skip to the next video. See you there.